Here's something most people never say out loud in church. God gave you that dream, that hunger, that fire inside you that refuses to sit still. And then, He made you wait. Not for days, not for weeks, sometimes for years. And the question nobody dares ask is, why? Today we're going to dig into one of the strangest, most uncomfortable stories in the entire Old Testament. A man chosen by God, anointed, celebrated, and then absolutely dismantled, not by his enemies, but by the very calling God placed on his life. And by the end of this video, I want you to walk away with something that will completely change how you see the ambition inside you. Because here's the thing, ambition isn't the problem, but there's a test hiding inside it. And most people fail it without even knowing they're being tested. Stick with me. This gets wild. Let's go back, way back. First book of Samuel, chapter 16. Picture this, a teenage boy, out in the fields, probably smelling like sheep and sweat and dry Palestinian dust, dirt under his fingernails, sun cracking the back of his neck. His name is David. And while he's out there, completely forgotten by his own family, his father Jesse lines up 7 sons in front of the prophet Samuel. 7, and not one of them is chosen. Samuel has to ask, is this all of them? And Jesse, almost as an afterthought, says, well, there's the youngest, but he's out watching the sheep. Nobody even bothered to call him in. That boy, that forgotten, overlooked, last-picked kid, gets anointed king of Israel that afternoon. Now, most sermons stop there. They turn that into a God sees the underdog message and call it a day. But that's not the test. The test hasn't even started yet. Because here's what happens next, and this is the part that should shake you a little. After David is anointed, he goes back to the sheep. He doesn't get a throne. He doesn't get a ceremony. He doesn't get a press release. He gets the field. Again. Now I want to stop here and ask you something. Think about the last time you felt a clear sense of calling. A deep conviction that this is what you're supposed to do. That burning certainty. Maybe it was a business, a ministry, a creative gift, a relationship you were supposed to build. And then, nothing moved. The door didn't open. The provision didn't come. The people didn't show up. Drop a comment right now and tell me, how long have you been waiting on something God placed in your heart? I want to know. Because I think a lot of us in this community are in the same valley right now. Here's what most people don't know about David in this season. Between being anointed king and actually becoming king, David spends roughly 15 years in situations that look nothing like the promise. 15 years. He kills Goliath, and instead of getting a kingdom, he gets a jealous king trying to pin him to a wall with a spear. He's hunted through caves. He's sleeping in the wilderness. He's hiding among the enemies of Israel just to stay alive. And get this, there are 2 separate moments in those caves where David has Saul, the man trying to murder him, completely at his mercy. 2 moments where he could have ended it. Claimed the throne God already promised him. Nobody would have blamed him. And both times, he walks away. Now here's where I need you to pay close attention. Because this is the test. We talk a lot about ambition in the church like it's either holy or it's dangerous. But I want to offer you something different today. Ambition is neutral. It's a container. And what you pour into it, that's what God is actually watching. David's ambition was real. He had every right to be king. God said so. The oil was literally on his head. But what God was doing in those 15 years wasn't delaying the promise. He was building the man who could carry it. See, there are 3 things happening in David's wilderness season that I don't want you to miss. First, David was learning that the calling didn't belong to him. It belonged to God. Every time he refused to take the throne by force, he was saying, this isn't mine to grab. It's mine to receive. That's one of the hardest things a driven person can learn, that striving and trusting are not the same posture. Second, David was being shaped in obscurity, the Psalms we love most. Psalm 23, Psalm 27, Psalm 34. Most scholars believe those were written in the cave, in the wilderness, in the waiting. Your greatest work, the thing that will outlast you, is probably being forged in the season you're most desperate to escape. Third, and this one cuts deep, David's restraint wasn't weakness. It was worship. When he refused to touch Saul, he looked at his men and said, the Lord forbid that I should do this thing, for he is the Lord's anointed. He chose God's timeline over his own ambition, in a dark cave, with the answer right in front of him. That's not just patience. That's faith with teeth in it. So what does this mean for you? If you're sitting in a season that looks nothing like the promise God gave you, I need you to hear this. The waiting is not wasted, but it's also not passive. Here are 3 things David's story is asking of you right now. 1. Stop trying to make the promise happen on your own timeline. I know that's hard, because ambition feels like action, and waiting feels like failure. But David's story proves that the fastest path to your promise is often the one that looks the slowest. If you keep trying to manufacture outcomes that only God can orchestrate, you'll exhaust yourself and undermine the very thing you're building toward. 2. Pay attention to who you're becoming in the waiting, not just what you're waiting for, who you're becoming while you wait. Because here's the truth. A lot of people want the throne of David, but they're not yet building the character of David. And God, in His mercy, doesn't give us what we want until we're built for what we're being given. The wilderness isn't punishment, it's preparation, and you can resist it, or you can lean into it. 3. Guard the way you treat the people in your way. This one is specific. This one is personal. There are people in your life right now who are standing between you and where you want to go. Maybe they're difficult. Maybe they're unfair. Maybe, like Saul, they're genuinely out to see you fail. And the test isn't whether God will remove them. The test is whether you will become bitter, calculating, or ruthless in response to them. David's greatest moment in that wilderness wasn't killing Goliath. It was walking out of a cave with his hands clean. God gave you that ambition, that restlessness, that vision, that holy discontent with where you are. He put it there on purpose. Don't bury it. Don't apologize for it. But don't worship it either. Because the real test of a God-given dream isn't whether you'll pursue it hard enough. It's whether you'll trust Him enough to let it arrive on His terms. David waited 15 years, and when the kingdom finally came, he was ready, not just to sit on the throne, but to carry the weight of it. Your season of preparation is not a detour. It is the road. Hold on. If this hits something in you today, something you've been quietly wrestling with, I'd really love for you to be here for the next one. Not because I need the numbers, but because these conversations are for you. And if you're in a wilderness season right now, you don't want to walk through it alone. Hit subscribe, and I'll see you next time.